26 years later, this screwball comedy is doing what most comedies failed to do: stand the test of time. Of course, I'm talking about Dennis Dugan's 1996 cult classic, Happy Gilmore. This was the golden era of Adam Sandler, smack dab in the middle of his Beastie Boys phase, and his frenetic personality is just wholesome enough to make random acts of violence an endearing trait. This movie deserves its place in the top 10 best sports flicks of all time. It's a quintessential underdog story, and truly a masterclass in simple yet direct character development. The timestamps for each sequence can be found in the comment section if you'd like to watch along. Now, let's begin. We start, as always, with a focus on our protagonist, specifically their personality, their inner conflict, and their situation. Some handy voiceover explains Happy Gilmore's love of hockey, the creation of his explosive temper, and his string of jobs while trying to break into professional hockey. Next, we examine where, why, and how our protagonists exist in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. Another round of tryouts finds Happy no closer to realizing his dream, and his personal life crumbles as his professional life stagnates. Then a brief event happens, one that's never happened before. It's destined to lead all the characters away from their status quo. Happy receives a desperate call to hurry to his grandmother's aid, which leads us to examine the effect of that something new to the status quo, specifically what's different now and also what remains the same. Grandma's decade of unpaid taxes threatens to take everything from her, and the wider consequences create an uncomfortable life. We move along to the discovery that things are less than ideal, or else we explore how badly things are. Both scenarios are common. Happy's superhuman slapshot leads him to making quick cash outside of his passion for hockey, but his cartoonish bias against golf prevents him from seeing the true money potential. Next, our characters dedicate their effort to a specified goal, and this is always smaller in scope than what the third act will demand. Chubbs Peterson recognizes raw talent and looks to train this new hotshot into the next gilded pro, while Happy sees a path forward to save Grandma's home. Then we run through a brief checklist of the main story elements that we can expect during this journey. Pro golfer antagonist Shooter McGavin, the rules and etiquette of a new sport, Chubb's unconventional mentorship, and of course, Happy's explosive temper. Which brings us to the brief event that launches our characters into the wild jungle of the second act. It's also called the oh shit moment. Happy's superhuman slapshot earns him a hole-in-one on a par 4, and all the attention of the general masses. Oh shit. We follow our characters as they learn the new rules and expectations of their journey. These are always distinct to the narrative at play. Happy navigates the ups and downs of his first golf tournament, and soon discovers the need for a lighter touch to contrast his slapshot. Then Virginia Bennett gives him a peek into his future tourney winnings. Next, our characters showcase their ability to grow and progress, and this is typically an external or physical beat, rather than internal or emotional. Happy refuses to take a 6-month break and keeps to blazing his own trail. And we check in with Grandma to confirm that saving the house is definitely possible. Then our characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Happy recognizes these pros aren't exactly his crowd, which is quickly confirmed with some family-friendly hazing. And even his temper is met with opposition as Virginia starts to shape a new persona. We endure the anxiety as our characters face an escalation of problems and complications. A more prestigious tourney comes with new rules and expectations, while Gary Potter's unconventional mentorship falls short of Chubb's. Happy's explosive temper draws the ire of the tournament president, and even his cheerful behavior makes him a quick pariah in the golf community. Next, our characters evolve internally or emotionally, and they do this by using elements of the plot or story which they've gathered and learned so far. Virginia saves Happy from being ejected from the tourney by rolling with the momentum, and Happy pushes back against Shooter's mind games, then agrees to adopt a milder behavior to keep his plan on track. Then our journey-weary characters come to terms with their ongoing struggles. Moments and elements from the first act are used to gauge their progress. First act employer Mr. Larson returns and demonstrates the support that Happy's past has for his new future. The first act crowds at the tourneys transform into an economically diverse free-for-all, and Happy defeats the gator that robbed Chubbs of his career, which promises a reunion of the first act duo, which results in a brief event that strikes at our protagonist's core conflict. Shooter makes it his personal mission to stop the erosion of professional golf by stopping Happy Gilmore's rise. We receive needed answers alongside our characters, which relate to both their external journeys and their internal conflicts. Happy's improved behavior, and in effect his improved golf game, is validated by a date with Virginia, who further validates and anoints Happy's mission to save Grandma's home with her romantic attention. Next, our characters complete their smaller scope objective, yet discover that their victory is shallow or altogether meaningless without also completing a larger scope objective. Happy is on track to save Grandma's house, but Donald the Heckler sabotages him into last place. Happy keeps his cool against the heckler, but he snaps when Bob Barker adds his voice to the shit-talking chorus. Then our characters face an existential conflict that wounds their sense of self, their worldly identity, or their physical journey. The fallout of the brawl leads to Happy's suspension, but a last-minute endorsement deal raises the rest of the money and time, while Shooter wins Grandma's house in the auction and threatens to burn it down if Happy doesn't quit the tour. And Virginia negotiates a deal that won't ruin Happy's future prospects. We celebrate with our protagonist in light of an undeniable win, which is always related to the rebirth in some way. Happy returns to his original mentor to learn how to putt, to beat Shooter, and Chubbs leads him to his happy place and to yet another superhuman golf skill. Next, our characters suffer a grand loss. This is always connected to their newfound inability to quit their journey. Chubbs' untimely death strikes a blow to Happy's morale and confidence, and Shooter swoops in to take Chubbs' honor under his wing. Then we experience a thematic freefall as the main story elements are ramped up and thrown into upheaval. Lifetime pro golfer Shooter McGavin and prodigious phenom Happy Gilmore are paired together in the final tourney, and they chip away at each other's confidence with every snide comment they can hurl. But Shooter finds himself unable to keep his lead, which forces us into a brief event that robs our protagonist of seemingly any hope of success. Shooter calls in Donald the Heckler for a sabotage encore. We watch our characters realize that they cannot return to their first act selves, and they turn to face the larger scope objective. Donald chooses a slightly less subtle form of sabotage, and robs Happy of his ability to hit his superhuman slapshot, which levels the playing field between he and Shooter to the near demise of everything Happy had fought so hard to build. Next, our characters use the major swings of the story and their personal journeys to move towards the climax. Grandma proves herself as the sweetest woman alive with a calming pep talk, and Happy finds his way back to his happy place, only to return to the tourney with all the experience he needs to crawl back from an extreme deficit. Then the final confrontation of our protagonists and characters against the antagonistic force plays out. The final hole of the final day, and naturally the hottest rivalry in golf, is tied. Shooter is forced to make an impossible shot, and demands Happy do the same when an errant scaffolding lands in his way, which culminates in a brief moment where our protagonist finally, and oftentimes metaphorically, overcomes their place in the Act 1 status quo. Happy taps his new superhuman putt-putt trick and sinks the ball to secure the win. We experience the direct aftermath of the climax. This can give our characters a moment to reflect on the situation, or else wind down the action with a coda. The crowd converges on the people's hero as he celebrates with both the women in his life. Next, we touch base with additional characters, typically to contrast them against the new status quo. Shooter tops off his bad karma just before Mr. Larson delivers the consequences on behalf of the universe. Then we conclude with a tight focus on our protagonist, specifically to contrast them against how we met them at the opening. Chubbs and the others look on as Happy and his family go home. And there you have it. One of the greatest sports films of all time follows the 29-point story structure every step of the way. The final handful of scenes wound down the movie quickly, yet never once wavered from the line. And from a movie about subtle superpowers found at the head of a golf club, I'll move along to a franchise about more overt superpowers and the people attached to them. Every third video will chip away at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Join me next time for Iron Man. As always, thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and consider commenting on and sharing this video to help the channel find its audience. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk at you next time.